Before we start, make sure we don't lose you in the dark. Subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment to show you are here. I've been a long-haul trucker for 16 years. You learn a few things when your life is the road. How to sleep light, how to fix a coolant leak with duct tape, how to eat dinner out of a gas station microwave. But most of all, you learn how to read the road. There's a rhythm to it. The hum of the tires, the way headlights reflect off different pavement textures, even the smell of air changing between states. It's a kind of sixth sense. And on that night, every part of it was wrong. I was running a load of sealed electronics from Dallas to a warehouse in New Mexico. Standard overnight route, nothing fancy, plenty of blacktop and empty desert. I'd driven it maybe 20 times before. I knew every rest stop, every mile marker, even which stretches had weak radio reception. But about 3 hours past the state line, just before 2 a.m., something shifted. The GPS started acting weird first. I had the route pre-programmed and I always keep paper backups. But the screen blinked out, then flickered back on with a completely different path. A loop. No matter what road I looked at, it circled back to where I already was. Then the CB kicked on, even though I hadn't touched it. Static at first. Then a voice. Not words, just humming. One steady note, deep and low, like someone humming through a tunnel. I turned the volume down, but it kept going, clear as ever. I pulled off onto the shoulder, got out to check the rig, thinking maybe I was just tired or the antenna was acting up. But the moment my boots hit the ground, the humming stopped. Clean. Silent. I stood under the stars, desert air dry and cold, trying to shake the weird pressure building behind my eyes. Then I saw the other truck. It was parked maybe 50 yards behind me, off the shoulder, no headlights, no running lights. But I hadn't passed anyone in hours. I would have noticed another rig. It was old, boxy, looked like something from the 70s, with a flat nose and faded red paint. The engine wasn't running. No one got out. No sign of movement at all. I waited, unsure if I should approach, call it in, or just move on. My gut said move on. I got back in my cab, locked the doors, and eased back onto the road. The GPS stayed dead. The radio didn't work, but the road ahead was empty, and I figured I could at least make it to the next gas station. Except it never came. The same stretch of desert kept repeating. Same billboard, same cracked asphalt pattern, same half-flattened roadkill on the shoulder. I drove for 30 minutes, maybe 40, but every mile felt like déjà vu stacked on itself. Then my headlights caught something up ahead. The same red truck, parked again. Same spot like it had never moved. This time its headlights flicked on for just a second, then off. I slammed the brakes, heart thumping. I waited watching, but nothing happened. No door opened, no engine noise. I reached for my phone. No signal. Then my rig stalled. The dash lights flickered and the engine cut off, leaving me in absolute silence on a dead stretch of highway that suddenly didn't feel like it belonged to this world. Part 2 of 6, Haunted Highway, English. The engine was dead and the silence around me felt too thick, like it had weight. I sat behind the wheel staring at the dashboard, hoping it was just an electrical glitch, something simple I could fix, but nothing responded. No lights, no click, no response from the starter. I reached for my flashlight, got out of the cab again, and stepped into the cold desert air. The red truck was still there, no movement, no sign of life, and it looked exactly the same as before, not just in model or color, but in every detail. Same dirt streaks on the windshield, same missing front plate, same dent on the passenger door. Like I was looking at a paused image on a screen that had never changed. I didn't like standing out there in the open, exposed. I walked around to check the batteries on my own rig, popped the hood, but everything looked intact. Still no power. Then the humming started again, louder this time. Not from the CB, but from somewhere in the air around me. It wasn't mechanical. It felt organic, almost like a throat clearing in the sky above. I turned slowly, scanning the horizon. Desert, empty and endless, dotted with sagebrush and the distant silhouettes of jagged hills. But I wasn't alone. Not anymore. I saw movement behind my trailer. Quick, low. Something too fast for a person, but too big for an animal. I backed toward the cab, reached inside for my flashlight and tire iron, heart racing hard enough to make me dizzy. I shouted out a warning, half expecting someone to respond, but the only sound I heard was my own breath catching in my throat. Then the lights came back on in the red truck, not just headlights, interior lights too. They flickered once, then stayed on. I could see into the cab from where I stood. It was empty. No driver. No movement. Nothing behind the wheel. Just a lit-up interior with no one inside. And then the door opened. Not fully. Just a slow creak, like it was waiting for me to come closer. I stepped forward without realizing it, drawn in like gravity had shifted and my feet weren't mine anymore. Each step kicked up dust. Each heartbeat felt wrong. When I was about 20 feet from the red truck, the engine roared to life. No one inside, no key turned. Just the sound of a diesel monster awakening from something older than sleep. I froze. The truck's headlights blasted on again, flooding the road in a yellow glow. The horn blared, long and deep and unnatural, like it came from something with lungs. Then it stopped. Dead silent again. The lights shut off. The engine cut. The door slowly swung shut with a clean click I heard even from where I stood. I turned back toward my own truck, ready to jump in, try to start it again, maybe call someone if I could get a signal. But the moment I turned around, my truck was gone. Part 3 of 6, Haunted Highway, English. There was nothing behind me. No rig, no trailer, no tire marks on the asphalt. Just a flat stretch of empty desert road stretching into blackness under a sky that now seemed too quiet. My truck was gone like it had never existed. I stood there, hands shaking, trying to process what I was seeing. I told myself it had to be a trick of the dark, or maybe I wandered further than I realized. But the truth pressed harder with each breath. I hadn't moved. It had. Or it had been taken. I backed away from the spot where my truck should have been and turned back toward the red one, but that was gone too. No headlights, no engine. Not even the faint smell of diesel. I was completely alone, but I could feel something watching. I began walking. At first, just toward the direction I thought the nearest gas station was. It couldn't be more than 5 or 6 miles. I'd done worse on foot before. But after 20 minutes, I hadn't reached anything. No signs, no posts, no mile markers, just the road and the dry rustle of wind across empty land. I stopped and listened. There was no wildlife, not even the buzz of crickets or the distant call of coyotes. Just wind. And then I heard footsteps. Not mine. They came from behind me, measured and slow, not hurried, not hiding, just walking. I turned fast, but saw nothing. I called out, told whoever it was that I was armed, that I didn't want trouble, but there was no answer. Only silence again. I picked up my pace. A half jog, half walk fueled by adrenaline and confusion. I didn't know if I was running toward something or from it. I just knew I had to keep going. Eventually, I saw a light in the distance, dim and low to the ground. It looked like a gas station canopy barely glowing under the weight of the night. I felt my knees loosen. Relief swept over me like cold rain. I pushed forward. When I reached the building, I realized it was a diner. Old, maybe 1950s era. Neon lights buzzed over the door and a faded open sign flickered in the window. A single rig sat in the gravel lot beside it. Red, old, boxy. I froze. It wasn't the exact same truck. Different plate, different bumper stickers. But it was close enough to twist something in my gut. I checked the cab as I passed. Empty. I stepped into the diner, a little bell ringing overhead. Inside was warm, lit by yellow lamps and full of polished chrome that reflected too much. A woman stood behind the counter drying glasses. She smiled, said, "Rough night, hun?" I nodded but didn't speak right away. My mouth was dry. I asked if I could use a phone. She motioned to the wall. "Payphone still works if you've got quarters." I did. I always carry change in the glove box. Or used to. I dialed dispatch. Static. Tried 911. Nothing. No tone. No click. Just silence. I turned back to ask the woman if she had a landline and froze again. The diner was empty. No music. No grill noise. No plates clinking. No waitress. Nothing but me and my breath. And then the bell above the door rang again, without it opening. I turned in slow motion, every muscle tense, expecting to see someone, anything, but the door hadn't moved. No air, no shift in pressure. The bell above it just rang on its own like a warning shot from an invisible world. I called out again, asking if anyone was there, trying to keep my voice level. But it came out hollow, like it didn't belong to the room. The lights above me began to hum louder. Not flicker. Just hum. A deep electric vibration that felt like it was crawling into my spine. Then I noticed the reflections. The chrome napkin holders. The coffee pot. The metal trim around the booths. Each one showed the diner as it should be, with people inside. A cook flipping burgers. A family of 4 eating pancakes. The waitress behind the counter refilling someone's coffee. None of them were there in reality. But in the metal they were moving. Talking. Smiling. Living. I stepped back, trying to get a clearer view. But the moment I turned my head to compare the real diner with the reflection, the scene changed. Now the chrome showed me, alone, staring, and someone standing directly behind me. I spun, flashlight raised, but again, nothing. Just the empty booths and my own ragged breath. I ran outside, gasping for air, but the gravel lot was gone. The red truck still sat there, but now the landscape had changed. No highway, no desert, just an endless black field that seemed to stretch forever under a sky with no stars. The diner behind me flickered like a dying bulb. I shouted, I cursed. I tried to force myself to wake up, but this wasn't a dream. It felt too solid, too grounded. My hands hurt from how tightly I was gripping the flashlight. My jaw ached from how hard I was clenching my teeth. I turned toward the truck and, for a second, thought I saw someone in the driver's seat. A dark silhouette. Perfectly still. I approached slowly, my boots crunching over gravel that now sounded like glass. As I reached the door, the engine started without a sound. No roar, no rumble. Just the headlights turning on and the cab vibrating slightly like something inside was waiting. I didn't know why I opened the door. Maybe I thought I could take it. Maybe I thought the only way out was through. I climbed up into the seat, hand on the wheel. The interior smelled of dust and something old, like faded photographs and engine oil soaked into time itself. The CB radio clicked on. A voice came through. Not mine. not dispatch. It said my name, just once. And then, "You were supposed to stop 10 miles ago." I looked around, trying to find a mic. There wasn't one, just the sound of tires on asphalt that I hadn't started moving across. The truck was driving itself. The road appeared ahead, unrolling like film across a projector. I should have been terrified. I should have jumped out. But something deep inside me, the same thing that kept me driving 18-hour shifts and eating breakfast at 2 a.m., told me to sit still and listen. Because whatever this was, it wasn't trying to kill me. Not yet. The truck moved smoothly along a road that shouldn't have existed, one I hadn't seen on any map, unmarked and too straight, with no landmarks, no signs, and no horizon. The sky above looked wrong. Clouds that didn't move. Stars that didn't twinkle. Just a painted ceiling stretched too tight. I tried the brakes. Nothing. I tapped the wheel. No response. I turned the key and flipped every switch I could reach, but the engine just kept purring like it belonged to something alive. I looked in the mirrors and saw only black, not the night, just emptiness, like the truck wasn't reflecting anything, not even itself. Then the CB came to life again, this time whispering, "You passed her. 10 miles back. You didn't stop. You never stopped." I froze. The voice wasn't mine, but it felt like it belonged to me. I scanned the road, trying to remember what I'd missed. 10 miles back on the real road, if that's what this was about, had been nothing but desert. Maybe a broken-down car, a shape on the shoulder. Had I passed someone in need without knowing? Or without caring? I tried to speak, but the mic was gone. My mouth felt like it was full of ash. The windshield began to fog from the inside, but not from breath or heat. Words were forming on the glass, slowly, like a finger was tracing them from the outside. At first I couldn't read them, and then the message became clear. She waited. Then it vanished. The headlights dimmed. The road narrowed. I leaned forward, trying to see where we were going, and suddenly we weren't on a road anymore. We were parked, middle of nowhere. A place I'd never seen before, surrounded by nothing but dry brush and flickering heat waves. The engine went silent. I opened the door and stepped out. The air burned cold against my skin. No moon, no wind, just silence pressing in from every direction like the edge of space. A shape appeared ahead. Small, standing, human. I walked toward it. Every step felt harder than the last, like the ground was pulling at my boots. When I got close enough, I saw her. A girl, maybe 16, pale face, dirty clothes. She looked at me the way animals look at headlights, calm, certain, waiting. I tried to speak, but she shook her head. I recognized her. Not from memory, but from guilt. There had been a call last year, back in Arizona. Cold night. Report of a runaway near an old truck stop. I was driving nearby, tight on hours, behind schedule. I ignored it. Figured someone else would get there. Later I heard they found her body in a ditch 30 miles from where she was last seen. I had driven right past that spot. I never stopped. She didn't speak, but she didn't need to. She turned slowly and walked toward the desert, each footstep lighting the sand beneath her with a soft glow. I followed. We walked together in silence for what felt like forever, until we came to a wooden sign standing crooked in the dirt. It was blank at first, then words slowly burned into it, letter by letter. Some roads don't loop. Some don't forgive. I turned to ask her what this meant, but she was gone. Again, and now, standing alone in a place that defied time, I finally understood. This wasn't punishment. It was a question. and I hadn't answered it yet. I stood in that dead desert, staring at the burned words on the sign, feeling the weight of everything I hadn't done. The silence around me wasn't empty anymore. It was filled with judgment, memory, and something else. Opportunity. I took a breath, one that didn't taste like fear, but like choice. I turned back toward the red truck, still idling in the distance, its cab glowing faintly from within like a lantern in a storm. I climbed in. The door shut on its own, not harsh but final. The dashboard lit up with a soft green glow, and the GPS screen came alive. One road, one destination. No name, no coordinates, just an arrow pointing forward. I tapped the brakes and felt them engage. The wheel turned under my hands, but this time I was the one guiding it. The engine rumbled like it had been waiting for me to decide. And I drove. The world outside the windows changed with each mile, like reality stitching itself back together. The stars returned. The sky breathed. The sand gave way to pavement, and I began to see familiar signs again. Real signs, speed limits, exit numbers, the kind of markers that only exist when the world is obeying its own rules. After what felt like hours, I saw lights ahead. A real truck stop glowing under flickering LEDs, full of other drivers, diesel fumes, and the comforting noise of idling rigs. I pulled in, parked, and shut off the engine. It responded like any normal truck should, quietly. I got out feeling my legs again, the weight of gravity working the way it always had. Inside the diner, the smell of coffee hit me like salvation. The bell above the door rang, and this time it was real. A waitress looked up and smiled, tired but warm. "Rough night, hun?" I nodded. She poured me a cup without asking. I sat by the window and watched the horizon shift from black to deep blue. Dawn. Real light. I took a sip and closed my eyes for a second, letting the heat soak into my chest. Then I heard the bell again. I looked up. A girl stepped inside. Not the same one from before, but similar. Young, worn out, scared. She looked around, unsure where to sit. I motioned her over. She hesitated, then came. I said she looked tired. She nodded. I told her I'd give her a ride if she needed it. She smiled. Not big, not forced. Just honest. The kind of smile people give when they know someone actually sees them. Maybe that night wasn't about ghosts or punishment. Maybe it was about being given one more chance to make a different choice. And this time, I wasn't going to pass it up.